Hi students, we're back in the studio and I'm here to show you how to create a beaked spouted pitcher. And this is the type of pitcher where you use a slab of clay to create the spout to pour and then cut into the body of a vessel and attach this slab. So let's get started. I have a thrown vase shape here with a trimmed foot. I went ahead and trimmed the foot, so you'll have to do that first. I'm going to set this aside, and I have a soft, fresh piece of clay here, which I'm going to flatten out into a nice round disc. And you can use your roller to flatten this out. You can use your fist or your palm of your hand. And then I like to pick up the slab and toss it a few times to stretch it out like pizza dough. And this gives me a nice even thickness to the slab that will become the beaked spout. Okay, so this looks pretty good. Now I'm going to take my spout, or my slab that will become my spout. I'm going to smooth it out, and then I'm going to take a knife and I'm going to cut out a really wide arc out of the slab. I like to call this the Muppet tongue shape. So you have a nice wide open arc like this. And then I take my sponge and I smooth the cut edge down, and I kind of press it and bevel it with my fingers, so that way I don't have a sharp cut edge. We don't like that in ceramics. We don't like to see just a raggedy cut edge. Okay, so I'm going to set this down here. Now I'm going to take my vase shape and turn it into a pitcher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to approximate how far I need to cut down. And generally, before I actually cut in a corresponding U shape that I cut out, I want to draw it in first. Make sure that the size looks good, and then I will cut it. Using my knife, I'm going to follow my line. I'm going to cut through the clay and then cut away the area that the spout will be attached to. I'm coming back in with my knife and I'm kind of beveling into the form. And then before I attach this, I kind of like to smooth this. I do a preliminary softening so it's not too ragged. I take my serrated rib and I scratch and score the interior. I'm going to take a damp sponge and I just tap down some water here so that the attachment will come together really nicely. Now I'm going to pick up my slab spout. Just smoothing this and making sure that I like it. Maybe I'll cut it just a little bit further here to make sure it's right. And I'm going to pick this up, and since this is so soft, I don't need to actually score this to attach in here. It'll just blend into the score mark. I kind of hold it like a taco, and then I place it into my pitcher form. And before I just start pressing down, I make sure that the placement isn't crooked. I adjust it. I get it even and centered. And then I also like to look at the profile just to make sure that it has like a nice lift to it. So what frequently happens is when students make these, they tend to tip the spout down, which creates a sort of sad looking beak of the spout, and it doesn't have that nice joyful and whimsical uplift that you really want from a beaked spout. You also have to decide how big you want it. For me, I like a really pronounced one that's really exaggerated. So that's how I like it. So now that I feel like the setting looks really good, I'm gonna attach it firmly into the section that was cut. There's a little overflow on the sides here as it goes in. That's actually good. And then I'm gonna blend the seams. Now, I think that you can blend the seams, but I always like to see a little bit of seam too, just because I like to know how these things are made. And overly blended ceramics tends to sort of lose a little bit of its soul and handmade feel in the process. But you do need to blend it enough so that it's smooth, there's no rough edges, and that things are properly attached. Okay, I have a whole bunch of extra clay now on the inside. So I just take my ceramic knife here, I cut into it, I remove the extra clay, take a moment, blend down on the interior, and make sure this is sealed down, because what's gonna be inside? Liquid, possibly sauces, gravies. You guys are going to use these for a lot of different things. So you want to make sure this is blended down so food does not get caught under there. Okay, so I take a little extra time, make sure that's sealed. It has a nice jaunty little angle. That looks really good. Tip this up just a hair. Okay. And I'm going to grab a handle that I pulled earlier, and I'm going to attach this. So one thing to remember when making these things is that you apply the spout after you trim the form, and then you put the handle on after the spout. Trying to work around a handle that's really soft and pick this thing up, manipulate it, and attach a spout is really difficult. So you want to always do your spout first. So now I'm going to attach my handle. I'm going to make sure that it's directly across from my spout. And frequently with these pitchers, I really like the handles to be up and high and jaunty and look really feisty to match the jauntiness of the spout. So you will notice that I usually put a really high handle on the spouts so that they are level with the top of the spout. So you get that nice ratio. This handle is still a little soft, but let's attach it and see what happens. So I'm going to add a little bit of water there. And I might have to blend this once this handle stiffens up a little bit. Yeah, it's a little soft. Okay, so once this stiffens, I will be able to get a nice arc to my handle. It's a little soft right now, but what I can do is I can let it dry upside down so it maintains its lift without sagging. But this is basically how we make a beaked spouted pitcher. Little different than the other pitcher where we just have a pulled spout. But I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to make one like this because they're really fun. Okay, thanks students.